All right, guys, UFC 285 recap. The first thing I want to address is Jake Gyllenhaal's body at 42. I'm mostly a straight man, but after seeing that, he has convinced me to watch Brokeback Mountain for the 6th time. Again, that's probably the biggest winner of this entire event. I need to know what doctor he has and what dosage he's on. It's hard to achieve those goals at therapeutic levels. All right, we'll start with Bo Nickal, Jamie Pickett. Bo Nickal coming into this fight, I believe he was 3-0. I believe this brought him to 4-0. 1 knockout, and he already had 2 submissions, 2 quick submissions on the Contender Series. Bo Nickal, super impressive. I first, honestly, because I didn't watch a lot of wrestling back then, I first heard of him when he had the grappling super fight against Gordon Ryan, and he hit the suplex and then got triangled afterwards. That was the first time I sort of started paying attention to Bo Nickal and his future in either grappling or MMA. But again, super impressive on the Contender Series. Like, crazy to see him put away 2 seasoned guys in under a minute each, both with submissions. His mounted triangle, unbelievably technical. This guy is super impressive, right? He comes into this fight with Jamie Pickett. Obviously, Contender Series, a lot of exposure, but not a massive live audience. This one, he's on the main card of a John Jones event. So a lot of eyes, a lot of people in the audience, and he definitely lived up to the hype. So let's assess it. He comes out, he hits a beautifully timed nut shot against the cage, takes down Jamie Pickett. From there, submission threat after submission threat, super active on top, and ultimately he starts to set up an arm triangle. And what I really liked about this arm triangle, and something that Joe Rogan said during the broadcast, he said basically something that I believe is wrong in terms of finishing an arm triangle. He was saying to step off the body. He was saying that left leg should come off the body and walk like a clock. I think that incorrect finish. That's a finish that if you do that, good guys are going to turtle or backwards roll, and they're going to separate your grip. So Bo Nickal, to me, showed incredible technique by always keeping his left leg either in a half guard position or in a mounted position. This means that Jamie Pickett can't use a turtle style defense. What Bo Nickal also did that was really interesting, he used basically the way Islam Makhachev finishes the arm triangle, and that's he ultimately switched to a rear naked choke style grip, and as soon as he did that, Jamie Pickett tapped immediately. So I think what was crazy is obviously Bo Nickal's got the takedowns, but his submission game is super scary. He rolls on the ground and goes for submissions like a high-level jiu-jitsu guy would, and again, gets another quick first-round submission victory. Can't say enough good things about Bo Nickal. Obviously, everyone knows he's wrestling, but the submission game is definitely frightening, and that's something not a lot of wrestlers have. You will not see guys with that level of wrestling pursuing submissions at the rate he does. We'll talk about the next fight. Obviously, no submission, but a lot of grappling. Gamrot is a guy that I trained with back at Renzo Gracie's in the Blue Basement. We rolled a bit. He used to shit-talk me constantly about my terrible wrestling. He's a Polish guy, really strong wrestling. He competed at ADCC. He lost first round to Gary Turner, but again, incredible grappler. He went against Jalin Turner. Turner is an enemy of my people and the New Zealanders. He has beaten 4 of the Anzacs. So he was meant to fight Dan Hooker. Hooker, I believe, broke his hand, was out of the fight. They replaced him with Gamrot. Gamrot obviously took some heat on the feet, but he was able to secure some really nice takedowns. His ability to drive off a double, super impressive. His conditioning is crazy. He keeps that pace for 3 rounds, and as you saw in a previous fight, he was able to keep that wrestling pace for 5 rounds, which is crazy, because if you've ever shot a takedown, you know how much energy that drains, and the way he did it in this fight was incredible. Jalin Turner did well to get back to the feet a couple times, and anytime they really engaged in an upper body clinch, Jalen's height advantage made it difficult for Gamrot to take him down. At the end of the fight, he tried a big Uchimata, but Gamrot countered that very well, landed him out. Super exciting fight, because you saw 6'3" Jalin Turner against the smaller Gamrot, but again, Gamrot, most impressive thing to me was the drive on his double legs. Super, super impressive. All right, guys, next one, Shavkat, Rakhmonov, a member of my people from Kazakhstan. He went against Geoff, Neal. Geoff, Neal came in overweight. Not sure what the issue was there, but this was an absolute banger of a fight. I believe we got the fight of the night bonus. They should definitely pay these guys more. I think Dana said he was going to pay Neal his show money, full show money, even though he missed weight too. It was a crazy fight. I thought the finish was maybe commercial for the new Roadhouse movie, because he basically finished him the way a bouncer finishes a drunk guy in a club, that standing rear naked. It was crazy. It was crazy to watch. He gets him against the cage. He starts locking it up. He uses this little crab ride style hook initially so that Geoff can't turn back into the choke. Because again, if you're going for a rear naked choke, something like Sakuraba would do back in the day, he would finish guys with a rear naked without any hooks in. The answer to that, again, Geoff Neal's trying to fight the hands. Really what he wants to do is try to get the shoulder of the side that Rakhmonov's on. He wants to pummel that. He wants to slip it inside. So again, you don't fight a no-arm rear naked with your hands. You fight it with body movement. He doesn't have any hooks to prevent you turning. So you really try to get that shoulder back inside. The crab hooked, followed by how he pummeled his hook inside and really bridged his hip in, meant that Geoff Neal, even if he had tried, he wouldn't be able to slip the shoulder. If he can slip the shoulder, the choke's off. But again, super creative finish. Probably another commercial for the Roadhouse movie. He should be paid by Roadhouse. He hit a pure bouncing move on a main card of a UFC fight, which I think's super impressive. And shout out to Kazakhstan. There's so many guys out in Kazakhstan like that. Absolute cold-faced killers. Whenever I go out there, I roll against these guys and they're complete unknowns. They try to kill me. Sometimes they do. And yeah, super high-level grappling, super high-level wrestling. All right, Shevchenko versus Grasso. This was an upset. I guess most people assumed Shevchenko was going to win. I would have picked the same going into this fight. Shevchenko had a competitive previous fight, so I didn't know what type of form she'd be coming into this one. And what the big surprise here was, Grasso was probably getting the better of a lot of the exchanges on the feet, and Shevchenko started shooting a lot of takedowns, and she was effective in 3 takedowns. I believe she hit even a crucifix position. She took her back. I think the positional grappling from Shevchenko was really, really good. But unfortunately, this is another title fight that ends with a failed spinning back kick move. First time we saw that was Chris Weidman against Luke Rockhold. Chris attempts a spinning back kick, gets his back taken, all downhill from there. And that's basically what happened in this fight. Shevchenko throws a spinning back kick. Grasso sees it coming and immediately dives on the back. When you get a rear body lock in the standing position, I would rarely recommend jumping for hooks and immediately going for the submission. Most of the time, you fall off or you lose the position being that aggressive on the feet. You see guys like Charles Oliveira hit this, but again, for the most part, it's usually not recommended. Usually you recommend a mat return of sorts and then slowly controlling and progressing to a submission position. But you can catch people by surprise. And maybe Grasso wasn't comfortable in her ability to wrestle Shevchenko down from that position because she wasn't able to secure a takedown earlier in the fight. She sees the back, she jumps on the hook. Shevchenko's probably thinking of positional grappling here. She's probably thinking of looking to clear those rear body lock hands. And before she knows it, the hooks are in and the submission threat's coming on. They're in a turtle position. Grasso's threatening the choke. She really applies a lot of hip pressure here to flatten Shevchenko out and immediately starts a palm-to-palm style rear naked. Shevchenko, I believe, incorrectly defended the hands here. She was trying to use her hands to push up Grasso's choking elbow, and Grasso's able to pummel to complete the rear naked choke. And she was still trying to push up that choking elbow. Really, you want your outside elbow down. So a lot of the time, if it's under the neck there, you actually want to hand fight the other elbow and push that to the sky, meaning it's hard to hit the rear naked because your elbow's facing up. We need the elbows down. So that'll be a bit of a Hail Mary. Obviously tired, fatigue. That choke's already setting in off the palm to palm. You're losing oxygen to the brain. You're not thinking clearly. And again, you saw Alexa Grasso's power in that choke because when she let go of the choke, there was this crazy white line. And that choke was over the face, and it's still a choke. Even if it's over the face, you can be choked if your chin's tucked. It's actually probably sometimes easier to choke people over the face than under the neck. You just have different finishing mechanics. But Grasso's power in that choke is something crazy. I don't think we've seen that too often where there's this crazy red line across someone's face. I'm not sure what they're going to do. It'd be good to see a rematch because Shevchenko won most of the grappling exchanges, to be honest, but Grasso only needed to win one grappling exchange. It kind of reminds me of the Miesha Tate Holly Holm one where Miesha saw the back once and finished. So it pays to be very good at submissions, right? Because if you have your opportunity and you don't miss, the fight's over. Whereas obviously positional grappling, is going to take more, you're going to have to wear down your opponent more before you see the submission, right? Final fight, Jon Jones, Ciryl Gane. I looked at this fight going in. I thought Jon Jones might have some difficulty here, being a little bit older, been out of the game for a while. And again, moving up in weight. Anytime you move up in weight, it kills your conditioning. It's so hard to do that. Obviously, if you're on some good PEDs, which they don't test on grappling, thank God, you can climb up in weight and keep your cardio. But in the sort of natural population, that's pretty tough. But that was a fact that we didn't even see in this fight. All it took was one takedown from Jon Jones for him to get to a finishing position. What I thought was, typically we don't see Jon Jones that aggressive on the takedown, but maybe the respect for the power of heavyweights and heavyweights' hands, he really wanted to shoot earlier. Again, if I saw Jon Jones winning this fight, maybe 5-round domination or a finish TKO in the later rounds, for him to come out and get a submission in round one, that's a pretty impressive statement. Ciryl Gane was actually talking to Nicky Rod about bringing him out to help him prepare for this. I don't know what happened there, but I think definitely he would have made a difference in that camp. But Jon Jones comes out, he sort of crashes into a body lock, immediately gets a rear body lock, heavy drag down to the mat, and he did a little interesting hook from Turtle to prevent Ciryl Gane four-pointing, quad-potting. He kept Ciryl on the knees. Ciryl really wasn't too aggressive here. I think in a Turtle position, you're looking to stand back up. You're looking to control one of the wrists. You're trying to control one of the wrists. You want to prevent them locking their hands, so that way when you get up, they can't lift you. Ciryl looked a bit uncomfortable, I would say, in that position. And after that first scramble where he tries to get up, he gets dragged back down to the floor immediately because Jon Jones is able to lock the hands. And from this position, Ciryl seated, Jon Jones thrusts his hips at Ciryl, and it makes it really tough to get up. If you've only done jiu-jitsu and you've never wrestled or grappled against the wall, it changes things a ton. It's so hard to move. That kills hip movement. All you can really do is wall walk or concede the back and try to clear hooks. So Ciryl definitely looked uncomfortable here, but Jon Jones would make almost everyone in the world look uncomfortable in these positions. And we know Jon Jones has a good guillotine. He had that crazy one against Machida where he just put him to sleep and dropped him, but he had an earlier one against Ryan Bader, and he's got long arms, thin arms. He's going to be able to get under the chin on guillotines quite easy, and you saw that here. You saw he had an initial attempt, and what he did was interesting. If you pay attention to his left foot on his initial guillotine attempt, that's what immobilized Ciryl Gane from trying to be able to wiggle out. Ciryl Gane's posture was sort of a bit strange there. If he had kept his head against the cage, it would have been impossible for Jones to get behind it, but I think panicking in that position, he had his head forward, and Jon Jones had one guillotine attempt. He cleared it, and then he kept that bad posture, and he tried to sort of do a kipping, so wiggling escape to try to make some space there, but that only meant that Jon Jones was able to sink it in deeper. And one other thing to pay attention to is in the final guillotine finish position, Ciryl Gane's posture is completely collapsed. That's the key to a good guillotine. We want to bend the neck. We want the neck bent forward. If you've ever been in a guillotine, you try to pull your head straight back out, it actually comes on quicker. And that is basically the position Ciryl was in. It was if he tried to pull his head straight back out, that bent over posture means you're going to get submitted and choked immediately here. Typically speaking, you would want to use your head to pummel out. You'd want to use, basically, you'd want to lead with the back of your head to be able to clear a guillotine. But again, you have to use your body to do that. You have to be able to turn your shoulders. And because he was trapped against the cage and couldn't move, that escape was impossible. Another great escape is if you're in open space, conceding to the flat of your back, because it's harder to finish a guillotine on top than it is on bottom. Takes away some of the bridging pressure. But of course, the cage being there means he can't concede anything. He's stuck, his back is stuck against the cage. So it's crazy to see that. Obviously, it makes that potential Francis fight more hyped, which is probably never going to happen. But the Stipe one will be interesting too. It'll be interesting to see how Stipe handles such a high-level wrestler and a guy with great submissions here. To wrap up the card, I think what was most impressive is the wrestler's ability to find submissions. Bo Nickal's ability to find submissions. Gamrot's positional control was excellent. Again, a wrestling background. We also saw Shevchenko's wrestling quite effective, but again, Alexa Grasso able to find a quick submission at the end. Lightning fast, gets one good position, finds a submission. And Jon Jones, wrestling base, aggressive first round submission. 285 Awesome card. Definitely worth staying awake for. One thing I want to add is I'm praying that Jon Jones makes it out of Vegas safely. As a fellow Jones, as a fellow nose beer connoisseur, Vegas gets the best of us. It gets the best of our bank account, it gets the best of our self-esteem. It takes something out of us every time. So God, I hope Jon Jones makes it out of there safely.